Hi, good morning. Welcome to episode 13 of Inside Norse. And today we're going to explore our partnership with the Norwich City Community Sports Foundation and the partnership with Norse, our strategic partnership. And I'm really pleased today to welcome Ian Thornton, OBE, who's the chief executive of the foundation, and someone who you all know really well, Justin Galliford, who's the chief executive of Norse. So we're going to start talking. Going to start maybe with you, Ian. You're a really well-known person, but just to get our audience to get to understand you a bit better, can I start with a difficult question first of all? Okay. So when you're at a dinner party with someone meeting you for the first time, how do you usually describe what you do?
Well, firstly, thank you for the invite, and thank you for the really difficult question as an introduction.
Let's get it out the way,
That's
Ian.
really comfortable for me. For a dinner party type situation or just generally meeting people, I probably tend to talk about them first because I'm more interested in helping other people than talking about myself to start with. Really, I'm very lucky and fortunate that I'm very passionate about community sport and football and how you make a difference and obviously being involved with the football club as the football club's charity. You tend to get onto the conversation about football or helping people or making a difference. And that's 9 times out of 10 a common ground about how you help someone or someone that's involved, or lots of our different projects and programs will be covering different projects where we make a difference to people. And I'll try and personalise it to make it about them, to try and find a common ground. Ultimately, I've been doing the role for a number of years now. It's about making people feel comfortable and making them feel happy and helpful. And that's in a dinner party setting, to answer your first question, which I really appreciate, is just to try and make sure that I'm very lucky and grateful to work in the environment I do, and helping people is something that as a football club and a foundation we take a lot of responsibility for, and it's something that makes us happy. So that hopefully kind of answered the first question for you to kind of set me up as we go through this this podcast.
There's plenty more of that. Don't
okay,
worry. Yeah.
good.
No, thank you. That's really interesting, really understandable. I think just on the theme of getting to know you a little bit more. Now, you started your journey with the foundation when you were 14. You're now the chief executive. And I think our listeners would really find it interesting to understand your journey, something like that, such a big journey. Would you just talk us through that? How did that journey happen? And how is it you've got to where you are today?
Again, another excellent question. So I started with the football club and with a project that was running in the community through my work experience. So I did 2 work experience placements as a 14, 15-year-old. One was going back to my former primary school to help the PE staff and sport, to help them kind of teach and educate children because I wanted to be in that setting. And the other one was helping on a soccer school, which is a holiday course, to make sure children can have some fun in the school holidays, parents can still go to work. And the environment around football, sport, children, fun, being out. And ultimately, as my parents used to say to me, if it involved the ball, I'd be there. So if it was an English topic, I'd probably write about football. If it was a book, it'd probably be about football. So it was just kind of that passion of being around what sport means and what community means. I think as you go through and you get mature and wiser in your kind of career, is trying to put yourself in situations where you feel happy and you want to make a difference to people. So that's where I started, and the benefits that I got from it, I still live to the day now. I still really highly believe in work experience placements and education programs. I still highly believe in learning and gaining skills from this experience. So, I just got excited about working with children, representing the football club, working with key partners. And I did a number of different roles, whether it be community sport, disability sport, helped with the girls and women's program to start with, and then we just got excited about coaching, going into schools, using the power of football and sport to make a difference. And then my role changed a little bit over the years, from community to development manager to a director of the programme. And really, I wasn't really excited about the job title. It was more actually what we're doing and who we're helping. And to a certain extent, I'm pretty similar to that now. So it then now comes into kind of leadership, strategy, partnerships. And really my role now is to go and help the younger generation have the experience support that I had. Because we want it to be sustainable. We want to continue to make a difference from a longevity point of view. So the role has changed from just helping, delivering technical sessions, making children smile and working with adults and partners, to now actually working with staff and other partners to make sure how can we upscale this even more. So my role has really changed from hands-on to being strategic, to actually working with people like Norse, because we couldn't do a lot of things without you guys. And that's always motivated me for a 14-year-old to where I am now, 33 years in, still being with the same organisation. When we started, there was 2 of us, and now there's probably 85 full-time staff, probably about 200 part-time casual staff, and we've probably got about 700 volunteers. So the kind of animal that is community sport has really grown for us. Partnerships with Norse take it to another level because they offer real quality, real care, and as we talk about quite a lot, really values driven. So it's actually now, how do we keep up the demand of making a difference through sport, because there's a lot of people out there that need our help. So motivated from a young age, and that core DNA has stayed with me for, well, to this day.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. I think your passion comes across really well. Thank you, Ian. You've also talked about how you fell into this role and, from what you were, sport, and you wanted to help people who were disadvantaged. I guess my next question is to understand the foundation a little bit more. Ian, for anyone unfamiliar with the foundation, what's the purpose behind your work?
So our infinite purpose as a football club is to make our football club and its community better today than it was yesterday. And our mission statement is to inspire and support people. And that's through football, that's through sport, that's through getting into communities and making a difference to people's lives. Now that might be putting a smile on someone's face, that might be creating a feeling of belonging, that might be putting them in a situation where they can improve their skills or qualifications. But ultimately it's work in a number of different settings, whether it be those that are disadvantaged, those that are disabled, those that have got some talent, those that want further support. And the whole community engagement is, how do we go and work in the community to work across a number of different programs, whether it be holiday courses, or whether it be those that have got mental health and wellbeing challenges, or those that are over 60 and want to play football, or those that take part in our dementia programs. So football is an unbelievably powerful tool that's really kind of, a togetherness. And we're just making sure that as a football club, through the foundation, we're taking responsibility to help where we possibly can. Now, we're only doing a little bit in the area, and without partnerships and support, we just simply can't do it. So that's why the partnership with Norse is just so important. But ultimately, it's about making a difference to people's lives, making them smile, improving their confidence, and making them feel part of something bigger that helps them in their life.
That's brilliant. That's wonderful. I mean, it always amazes me why in a country like ours today, the inequality in our country is getting bigger and bigger. And for something like this, that's trying to bridge that gap in many different ways, I think is really commendable. Why do you think that sport and football, in particular, are such a powerful tool to reaching out to people?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think, football's very much a kind of a go-to universal language. Whether you're at a dinner party, what's your first topic of conversation that you can find a common denominator with? How do you make sure that you kind of link things together? I think in every kind of race, religion, background, where you sit in society, sport, and in particular football, play a massive role to motivate people, bring people together. A home game, we have 20,000 season ticket holders that, arguably every other weekend they come to Carrow Road, whatever the situation is, because that could be their modern day church. So, football's really powerful because it brings people together. They feel part of something bigger. They want the entertainment. And I think they enjoy the ride because it's not always really soft and smooth. I think they enjoy the ups and downs and the challenges and the moans and the groans and the excitement. So I think if you look at football throughout the years and you look at other key sports as well, it just brings people together and gives them something to care about and something to buy into. And that's why I think we have to take responsibility to use the power of sport to engage. And we know what we're good at and we know what we're not good at. Hence, if we're good at what we do, but without your guys' expertise at Norse, that takes us to another level. So the engagement bit is the first bit, but we need to make sure we layer it a bit further and use that power. And that's through the foundation. That's always been our aspiration to do that. I think we do quite a lot, but the challenge where the world's at the moment and where we are in Norfolk, and there's so much more to do and more people to help.
Yeah, really. So using sport and football as a common glue to bring everything together, that's the thing. That's fantastic. We hear the phrase social value a lot. It's certainly over the last 5 years, it's key to a lot of organizations and a lot of communities. But in real human terms, what does it mean to you?
And we measure our social return on investment. And I think, like many of us, we actually want to quantify things with data as much as we possibly can, because lots of our decisions can be data orientated in this day and age. I think from a business point of view, you do need that because it allows you to measure things subjectively and objectively as best as you possibly can. I think for us, without over confusing it, I think sometimes it's just about keeping things simple. For us, it's just making a difference in someone's life. And how can you improve their life or make them feel better and give them that social value? Now, how they personalise that, the kind of individual case studies, the individual one-to-one stories, that's probably the bit that excites us. So whilst you need data and you need spreadsheets to understand these things, so you must never take your eye off the kind of the individual story of how you've helped that one person, or their carer or their family. So social value for me is just quite simply make a difference in someone's life, so they make their life a little bit better, which kind of fits into your question earlier, is what's your purpose?
Yeah,
and it's about making a difference as much as we possibly can.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that, about some individual stories there. But Justin, can I bring you into the conversation?
Of course, thank you.
You lead a large organisation that delivers and provides essential services around the country.
Yeah.
Why is social value important at group level, and why does it matter that it's done in the right way?
Social value at a group level really matters because it's an integral part of our culture. When you think of our ownership, owned by Norfolk County Council, a huge part of what we do in terms of our DNA should always look back to our heritage. And when you come from a local authority as an organisation, you have to be focused on making the communities you're in better. Ian talked about the values and the kind of infant mission of a club. And in some ways, ours aren't dissimilar. Our cultural North Star is improving people's lives through the services we deliver to make sure that communities function well. And then when you think about it from a social value perspective, it's that extra element to say, what can we do to help people's lives in whatever way as a complement to those services? And of course, that's important out around the country, but it's also really important here in Norfolk for our shareholder, because in addition to what they like from us, we provide services for them, we give them a return financially, but actually, always trying to be a really good ambassador for them and do the right things in the community is really important. So that's why it's so important to us as an organisation.
Thank you. Yeah, that's you've talked about some of the common values that you share, but could you describe, Justin, how going back to the start, how the partnership between the Norse Group and the foundation came about, and what was the shared objective?
I think it's a really interesting story, really, as to how it emerged, because it wasn't deliberate. Our catering team had been in touch with Ian's team, and an initiative had come to bear called Active Canaries, which we're in the, I think, 4th year of now, Ian?
Yes, yeah.
So that's kind of how it started. The Sports Foundation with the club had a really good idea about getting young people engaged in schools in nutrition and healthy eating and healthy lifestyles. And the club were using some of their players to sort of really front this. And what we did was work with them to create some menus along with the chefs from the club and from the Sports Foundation as well. And then went into schools and talked about that. And we did some of the promo work and created some of the collateral. And then that was delivered over a short programme for quite a few schools. And what Ian and I, as we began to talk about it, realised was it was a great example of a win-win, because it really helped the Sports Foundation deliver one of their objectives in terms of a programme they were keen on. And from our perspective, it really struck at one, our core service. We've done school catering for a long, long time. And secondly, our broader aim of adding social value to that. So we were in schools that we currently provide meals into, and we're in schools that might be interested in the future. So it's a great way for us to show how we're different from perhaps a typical provider, and we will reinvest back into those services to make them just that little bit extra, to add something additional. And I think the more Ian and I talked, the more we realised the power of our organisations working together in a kind of win-win, because through some good collaboration, we both as organisations benefited, whilst at the same time helping the community. So these organic conversations just began to take shape over a period of time, really, as we got to know each other, organisations got to know each other better. And what we developed was the outline for really a partnership which would keep doing that, would keep co-collaborating, but equally would help each organisation achieve their aims. And really, I suppose that's possible because there's some solid overlap in those values, I'd say, Ian.
Yeah, definitely. I think Justin and I attend a number of different events in Norfolk, which are all events trying to raise awareness of helping people in Norfolk. Obviously, I understand Norse are national in terms of their reach, but we found ourselves attending a lot of events, seeing how we can help solve some problems where other people want some help or things were being launched. And the more we talked about the skills and resources within the Norse group, for us, impact is our biggest motivation. But you need income and skills to be able to do that. You have to make sure you've got the resources to do that. But when we put our two kind of heads together to look at the skills within each other's organisations, it was like, well, actually, we can make a bigger difference here. We wanted to go and do some health education projects in schools. You offer a very good school meals provision now, but the kind of continuous improvement of quality kind of raised Justin's eyebrows a little bit, as if to say, we could do a bit more with our schools here. Let's offer better value. Could we do this together? And then it's one of them things where you kind of get excited a little bit and a bit of blue sky thinking about what about this and how does that work? And then you give it to the staff, and what the staff at Norse did in the team in terms of the caricatures and characters of our professional players, it really takes the level to a little bit of excitement in school.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, last week we just had the Active Canaries school assembly. We had 12,000 children online on a morning with Norse, with the football club, with the foundation, with players, talking about healthy eating and healthy choices.
That's fantastic.
Now, if we can bring role models like our female football captain and our male football players to the classrooms of children, and they make better choices, and it also gives the teachers a bit more time perhaps to inspire the children, or a bit more time to get organised while they've got 15, 20 minutes on a screen. We've got to use innovation, and we've got to use our kind of resources and skills of our people to go, actually, this is going to make a difference. And some of the feedback we got from the schools and the teachers was just amazing. And we were talking as this was going live because we were both excited about it. And the problem is a lot of things with the things we've been doing so far is once you have one idea, you then find another idea. And it's actually, where do you turn around and say, no, just stop, get this bit right. What else do we do next? And this has got huge potential to do more work in schools. And that main thing is, look, if you're providing services to schools, we want to use the power of sport and football. What else can we do? So the challenge is actually, where do you stop and say, no, let's get this really good, or actually, no, there's an opportunity here to do more. So that's the bit that's a nice problem to have. But Active Canaries is a great example of food education, role models, and real skills within the two workforces.
Fantastic, thank you. So you talked about how this started. You talked about that it's the right partnership, and you talked about how it's developing. You've also talked about how this partnership has enabled you to do more.
Yes.
That would maybe would not have been possible otherwise for the foundation. Leading on from that, I just want to go into that a little bit more. Some of the other key initiatives that we're delivering together. You've talked about Active Canaries. I think that's really useful. But what else are we doing together?
So, of course, Run Norwich, which was really probably the thing that to most people, I would say.
Would you Justin, in case people don't know, what is Run Norwich?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think if you live in Norfolk, you will know about it. But it's a 10K run, which the Sports Foundation has put on for
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 10 years just this year. I mean, it's a great event. It's an event one of the events which is in the sort of the calendar for Norfolk, and certainly for the city of Norwich. And what really interested me about it is the number of new runners that it attracts each year. So in really encouraging people to take up a challenge, train for something and do it. So helping break down the barriers as an access to sport and healthy lifestyle. So we began to talk about that as an initiative, and we're in our third year now of sponsoring that event and partnering. So we do a variety of things, but we help with some of the race prep as well. We help a bit on race day. I think we're kind of one of those critical friends, I think is how the team put it. So because of a variety of services we provide, sometimes we're a kind of can you just. We'll sometimes help arrange and do water drops, so do a little bit of security. We'll help with some other elements of course setup. And that's the sort of depth of partnership. So as much as it's about some most formal things, it's also about the informals, could you just. And Ian and I talk regularly, and we organisations help each other out. As Ian said, when you understand the skills, the resources that each organisation has, you begin to see how they can overlay and just rely on each other on an informal basis, as well as for some of these larger programmes. So in addition to that, we're also doing Onside. I mean, that's been a really great initiative. I mean, Ian's probably better placed than me to talk about that. But, I was at the Sports Foundation's awards dinner where you were talking about some of the successes of the young people going through some of your programs. And that was really touching. I think Onside, it showed what a difference it makes to people's lives.
Ian, could you just describe Onside a little bit more, just exactly what that program is?
Yes, if I just go back a couple of steps first, when we first started lots of our conversations, because before we did anything together, we were quite clear that it wasn't a sponsorship, it was a partnership. And we were very clear on that at the start. And from a strategic point of view, it grew arms and legs in terms of it's not just a partnership, because actually when you understand what Norse do, the skills that people have got and the difference they're making, this is wider than a partnership. There's a longer difference. You're making decisions over 10 years to benefit Norfolk. So let's look at how can Norse and the foundation, the football club, actually benefit the people of Norfolk, not making decisions for tomorrow, but within 10 years. Just go back to Run Norwich. Run Norwich fits into that mental health and well-being piece. It is an animal in itself. We're shutting 130 roads. We are closing the city for relatively 6 hours on a Sunday morning. We're bringing 10,000 runners, and that's from a junior point of view, and an adult over 16 point of view. We have got 20,000 spectators coming into the city. So if you kind of put that as a complete giant animal of an event, arguably for 2 hours on a Sunday morning for people to run, we have to look at the wider benefits of it. And the bit that excited Justin was when we started talking about it helps raise money for other charities. So it's an enabler for other Norfolk charities to remember people, because people like running and remember people. Running is a good tool for people's mental health and well-being. This year, we've got 3,000 new runners. That is the first time that they've taken part in Run Norwich.
Okay.
The event sold out in 15 minutes with a bit of challenges with the system, kind of just keeping up with it, which is the system worked perfectly fine. I think someone said to me it was easier to get Oasis tickets than it was to get a place at Run Norwich, which is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, of course.
But the main thing is that people are using running to better themselves. So you're looking at the training programs, not necessarily looking at the morning of the event, but then we've got volunteers that are unbelievably motivated to help people have a great time. And it is a real kind of celebration of people coming together. And like you as an organisation, we are attracting people from all over the world to come and take part in this event. Hotels from Great Yarmouth up to Thetford are pretty much booked out because people are making a weekend of it. So there's economic benefits.
Yeah.
There's mental health and wellbeing benefits. But the bit that we also really like and get excited about when we first met with the team at Norse was they get involved. They'll either run within their running group, some for the first time, some quite experienced, or they'll get involved in jobs that are absolutely critical, whether it be water jobs, whether it be sandbags, whether it be putting out equipment, whether it be manning stations, and just the logistics of putting the whole thing together, people don't see behind the scenes. Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing we do. But sustaining it was probably one of our biggest challenges. And without that kind of funding support to cover the costs, without that support from Norse, quite simply, this event wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So when you talk about social value, that investment into the partnership is making a difference to people's lives in Norfolk that might have a smile on their face, might buy a pair of trainers, might be proud of nan, granddad or auntie or uncle that have run for the first time. So there's real inspirational stuff going on. Yeah. So it's not a sponsorship. It's actually far wider than that. Yeah. And the difference it makes to Norfolk, and I've said it quite a few times, without it, Norwich and Norfolk wouldn't have this event. Yeah. So, without that support, it's very difficult.
Thank you. I mean, you've described that real social value really vividly there. Thank you for that. Before we move on, I just need to press you, if you don't mind. Onside, if that's okay.
So Onside is working with Norfolk County Council, working with Children's Services, and it's about reaching some hard-to-reach young people that have got some challenges in their life. Now, that might be through family, that might be through their school environment, and they're struggling to cope with one or two things, and the Children's Services and family liaison officers will refer the young person to us just for some further support, guidance and time to help them with challenges in their life. Now, this is one of them projects and programs we can't necessarily come out and market because it's all around children. Yeah. But actually, when you actually see the case studies and the stories of the people that you're making a difference to, they come to the nest and they'll work with our staff. That may be around football, that might be around confidence, that might be around resilience. They'll have some fun, they'll engage with some of the staff, and we'll try and give them some skills to how they cope with things at home and how they cope with things in school. And for the bigger picture from an economic point of view is that might make a saving to the school because they're keeping that person in education. But for us as individuals, going back to that social value pieces, we might give someone a little bit of time that they can manage their parental challenges, they can manage some thick challenges they've got at school. And when we're in a world of neurodiversity, actually finding someone that's got the hook to give you a bit of time and patience and care to think that you've been looked after, again, is one of the most motivating things that we will always do. And when you talk to the staff from Norse that have come up to visit and seen these activities, we will share internally some of the stories and case studies we've made a difference with. But again, this was something that the Norse staff wanted. They wanted to go and make a difference to the Norfolk children.
Yeah.
And they kind of voted on, what program do you want to be involved with when we first started talking together. And some of the stories they're inspirational, because when you hear the background of some of the challenging situations these young people are in, it's motivating for us to say, look, again, what else can we do? Yeah. How can we do a bit more? How do we sustain this? Yeah. And when you think about Norfolk children and some of the things that they get in the area that we live are brilliant, they have a lot of challenges. And it's important that we work together with skills and resources to, again, take some responsibilities and help. So Onside's been really, really, really rewarding. Yeah. And so it makes us proud, because it was what the North staff wanted to do to make a difference to Norfolk children. So, a long way that continue.
So we talked about Active Canaries, we talked about Run Norwich, talked about Onside. I just want to come on to Ian's last point, but to you, Justin, if that's okay. Talking about Onside, for instance, why do you think it's so important that our employees are involved in this strategic partnership, and what do you see the long-term impact of that?
Thanks, Paul. I think it's really important, because that is what makes it a partnership. It's what gives it that extra depth, and it's what ties our culture into being, really, because we've done a lot of work, as you know, over the last couple of years on values and culture as we came together as a group, and we worked really hard to collaborate with the staff and really get them to be at the centre of that. And what you have to do as you move forward, kind of evolution of culture, is really make sure that you're demonstrably living your values. You can say things, but when do people really know that it's true and it's part of who you are as an organisation? And I think this is a great example of live values. We talked to a staff, we said, what's really important to you? We're thinking as a business about forming a strategic partnership. What would you like to see us deliver? So it's a great way of demonstrating that we live our values, and of course allowing staff to do that as well. And to the future, really, as Ian has said, we see this as a long-term partnership. So I think, for us, one of the benefits is that it will keep allowing us to evolve and show our culture and our values are being lived and evolving, because that is really important that, nothing stands still. So as needs change, I think, the focus on the things we like to do as a business to support the community will change. I think the other really important thing for us is that, although we've talked a lot here about Norfolk, and it's really important we make a solid return to Norfolk, given our ownership and where we're located as a head office, actually what it's done as a business is given us a skill set and connections to be able to help our other joint venture partners and customers around the country deliver social value if it's something that's important to them. So certainly I see in the longer term us beginning to use the knowledge and the skills we've developed and the network. As an example, there's a community sports foundation for many football clubs. Ian and the team can introduce us to those people. So if we have someone that's interested in a JV partnership in something similar to what we're doing here, we could ask Ian to make that connection for us. So it gives us that scale to evolve and continue to grow our social value commitment around the country, which I think is really important. And I think the other thing I'd say is something I often say when we're talking about this to other businesses is, you can do the same thing. We may be of a scale, a size, but you can do something relevant to your size and scale. And as Ian says, when you think about the concept of partnership, it's not just about money. It's about the resources and capabilities you have as an organisation that can really make a difference to someone else, another organisation, to empower people in the community. So I always say, don't just think about the money, think about what you can do to help other organisations, particularly charitable organisations, deliver value. So I think that for us is an important future aim as well, to keep extolling that message and trying to help people on that journey.
Ian?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I'm just trying to recall some of our early conversations that we had together, and we tend to be wide in a strategic point of view. What's the bigger picture? How can we solve this? And a lot of our projects and programmes are scalable. As Justin said, every football club has a foundation. They're doing very similar work to us in the community. We were very lucky and grateful and really proud that this season from the EFL in the community, we were voted Community Club of the Season.
Fantastic.
So
Congratulations.
in the foundation. So
Excellent.
that is a celebration of what all the staff do and what all our partners do. So everything is scalable in terms of the projects and programmes through Norse as a national business. But one thing Justin talked about was when we first got together, he said, let's just get it right under our feet to start with. Let's just get that bit right before we start building, which I thought was was absolutely
Spot on,
identical. And the kind of long-term partner is, when do you start scaling these initiatives up? When do you start bringing other partners to the table? And I think a big bit, going back to your kind of social value question earlier, was kind of around your environmental social governance. What are other businesses doing to take responsibility to live their values? And through the foundations across the country, and in Norfolk to us, is actually use us to engage to achieve your social value. So you're not just got a poster on the wall saying this is our mission.
Yeah.
You're not just saying that we're trying to do this in a tender bid somewhere.
It's not just a tick box.
No. You're actually, businesses have got to actually justify, if you want to win that tender process or want to contribute more, what can you do to make a difference in the community? And I think that's the social value. The people are actually getting quite smart, going, actually, it's added value.
Yeah.
If you want to win this contract and commercially achieve your goals, that's fine. But you're going to have to contribute to society as well at the same time. So we're working together on ESG projects with the team at Norse here, and it's actually really exciting.
Yeah.
But when people turn around and go, what things can you actually help with? The things and skills that you're bringing to the table, whether it be line marking, whether it be replacement of trees, there's things that save us money as a charity, make the experience even better, which actually creates an environment and a place that can make a difference for a person. So that's the whole knock-on of people, places, and that is just how it's worked. So from the ESG point of view, there's so much more scope across the whole Norse business, as much as your contractors and business partners who might want to get involved as well, not only with us, but other foundations across the landscape.
Thank you. That's a really good segue into my next question, which is around the future, about the vision. So for you, Ian, where do you see the future of the foundation, and what are your hopes for that direction? Where do you think it could go?
It's really difficult. I'd probably say in terms of always making sure the first thing that is the experience we're offering today and tomorrow is a good quality experience.
Yeah.
So we're always looking at innovation. We're always looking at care. We're always looking at making sure the experience that someone has to us is a lifelong memory that they've enjoyed. Will we have some challenges and get the odd thing wrong? Most probably. Is our aim to get most things right as much as we possibly can? 100%. But I'd probably like to see a greater depth of our work and a scalable part of our work in the community of going, how can we do a bit more? So more partnerships allows us to do more funding allows us to do more, gaining more skills. So look, I'll probably go back to say, look, can we do more of the same? But we can only do that if we've got the places to do that. So we're working hard as an organisation to improve our places, to make sure we can invite, people of all ages to take part in our programme, whether it be an extra time over 55, whether it be a Duncan's Club, which is a dementia programme, whether it be a holiday course in Great Yarmouth or something in Wyndham or something in the west of the county. So I'd probably say, can we do more, but maintain our quality in terms of what we're doing. And the two things is people. How can we develop our people a lot more? And where's innovation?
Yeah.
What innovation can we show to make sure that we're up to date, keeping up with the next generation? We have a youth council, a youth board. What ideas have they got? So are we futuristic in terms of making a difference, a little bit deeper? Can we upscale it? But can we be modern, forward thinking in terms of showing a bit of innovation? Because there's lots of things with AI and technology. So how do we actually reach out? Active Canaries is a classic example.
Yeah.
12,000 people connected through an online assembly, which then allow them to get more involved. So there's that connectivity bit and engagement bit kind of really excites us.
Yeah.
I think we do a lot, but there's so much more to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's a really good vision statement there. Justin, just to come back to Onside, I think you talked about the value of creating living the values in the business, within the business, and that which then creates the culture. And I know on the Onside program, you had a vote in the company. Why was that important to you? Why did you engage group-wide vote for that program?
I think it goes back to the point about when we talk about living the values and we really want to get staff engaged. I think giving them a voice as to what that engagement looks like is key, because that drives their practical engagement, their own personal commitment to it. And that, of course, ultimately is what makes these things work. And that's what embeds it as part of our culture. And to my point, really about kind of driving and evolving it forward. So it's what ultimately then brings all of that together into a proper partnership rather than just a transactional sort of arrangement. Because it's really not about that. And one of the things that I've always been quite clear on is that we're not after having our badge all over everything, but we do in collaboration or in support of the Sports Foundation. It's far deeper than that. We're doing it because it's the right thing, and we want to do those things in the longer term. And to me, that's really what comes back to this piece about aligned values and driving forward with a kind of shared vision.
Thank you. Ian, just going back on from that, what advice would you give organisations that genuinely want to create social value but really don't know where to start?
Yeah, I'll probably go back to one of your first questions earlier in terms of how did you get involved and why did you get involved? I think it's really understanding about making a difference. And, in the early years, we were known as football in the community, but we were doing lots of different sports. And we weren't really, understanding who we were and how we come across, because we were that excited and spent our time just making a difference through sport and working in community settings, working in schools. So I'd probably say, keep it simple. Work on making a difference to people's lives. That is the real part of social value. If you can be strategic with it and understand it, how it fits into from a commercial point of view, I totally understand that. But make sure if you are championing that you have got some social value, that you are actually doing it. So I'd probably be, keep it simple. Really check, involve your people. And Norse were really, really strong on involving the people, which we liked. And with other partnerships, we've used that kind of engagement style to go, what do you want to do? I think from a leadership point of view, it's very smart, it's very futuristic, it's the way to do things. But I would definitely just say, look, get excited about making a difference to people's lives. And then the rest should all fall into place.
Yeah, but keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
That's some really good advice, practical advice. Before we go on to the end, Justin, one for you really. What would you want our colleagues, our partners, our clients, our customers to take away from this conversation about social value and partnerships?
Thanks, Paul. I think the key thing from my perspective is really getting people to consider that social value for us is really part of what we do. We've always done it in one way or another, but increasingly we want to do it in more visual, strategic ways aimed at really helping give positive outcomes. And I think for us, given our heritage and our ownership, social values are a key offering. I think it's something our customers require. And I think in a world where actually there's less cash available from central government, unfortunately need seems to be increasing, the modern responsible business has a key role to play in social value. So absolutely, it's part of our DNA, and it's part we want to strengthen and use to support our customers all around the country, where there's the kind of fit that we talk about here with the Sports Foundation, with an organisation with those sort of shared aims and missions.
Thank you for that. Thank you both. I must finish now, Ian. Going back to you, and that's our close. I've got some questions that might put you in trouble, but I've got no. I'm just asking the question, all right? So the answer is down to you. But you're a bit of a celebrity because you engage with the community here, through something like sport and football, which are universal languages. 3 quick questions for you. Number 1, what's your proudest moment to date?
I think when you go back to Run Norwich, the challenge of putting an event on like Run Norwich, and actually where we are 10 years later, the money it's raised, the people that have taken part, the people that have helped. I think that's an iconic event that's really put Norwich on the map. I'm really, really proud of that. We do get excited about some of the big things because we like to build in the nest. Last year we had 180,000 people through the door, through different projects and programmes, activities, and you kind of think, what would Norfolk do without it now? Can we do some more? But I'll probably, again, apologise, but come back to the point earlier. Sometimes when you look at people smile and you see a family shake your hand and say, thank you very much, you can't get away from them moments because they just give you a shiver. You can look at the big things. You can look at the growth of the foundation. I've got some excellent staff that have been really loyal. I've had staff that have come and gone and come back again. And some of these staff have made just huge differences to people's lives. But I think the people that we recruit, the people that we try and train, the people that join our programs, our partners, is just make a difference to someone's life, whether it be saving it or whether it be giving them confidence. That will never leave us. So I'll probably say doing that every single day is our proudest moment.
Thank you. I mean, that's quite an emotional answer, and I can see what it means to you. And just listening to that, it means an immense amount. So thank you for that. Because you're linked with Norwich City Football Club, your favourite player to watch ever?
That's
this
difficult.
Is where you might get in trouble. So.
Yeah, that's difficult. So I've been here 33 years. That's a lot of managers. That's a lot of players from that point of view. I think there's two ways to look at players in terms of what their contribution is on the pitch. And if you go through the years when we first started, Brian Gunn's contribution on the pitch was amazing. At the time when I first joined, it was the UEFA Cup run. So my first night at work was watching Inter Milan train at Carrow Road. I didn't get a ticket for the game. That was the biggest time that you're seeing the Darren Eadys, the Rod Newmans, the Chris Suttons and Jeremy Gosses. So, there were some real talented players that are still involved with our football club now.
Okay.
I think when you go through the journey of being kind of in the mix of being at the football club, you see players make significant contributions. That might be Darren Huckabee's time when he was with us. You're looking at players like Adam Drury, who's club captain, now work for the foundation, who have done amazing work. Even to this very day, you've got people like Kenny McLean, playing for his country in Scotland, going to the World Cup, and really contributing on and off the pitch. So I think it's very difficult for me to say which player excites me, but I like the players that are leaders. I like the players that take responsibility. So through the years, you look at Kenny McLean is a great example.
Okay.
You can look at likes of John Ruddy, Russell Martin. So I'm going to be really safe and sit on the fence because I'm concerned that one or two of them might come back and give me a bit of stick. But look, I think it's about being a player on the pitch and a real good role model off it. And currently we've got Tim Krul, still lives in the county, international goalkeeper, played in the World Cup, wants to make a difference. So Norfolk's something special. Once we sign them, we tend to keep them here for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I suppose I like the ones that want to stay around. Yeah. Just as much as possibly can. So yeah, we're very fortunate. We've had some really good players on and off the pitch.
Brilliant. Well answered. Thank you for that. And finally, your prediction for Norwich City this season.
Well, that's interesting. You really are putting me under the pressure. I think we've gone through some challenges this season, and I think the appointment of Philip Clement has been outstanding. I think his
Rangers previously, wasn't he?
He was, and he was successful there. I think his leadership style impresses me. Old-fashioned values, modern-day leadership, and he's really got a tune out this group of players. I think what would I like to do would be more of the same. A strong finish. It shows that we are together. We've got talented young players coming through. Our women's team are pushing for promotion, so they have ambitions. I think, but when people ask the question, what about Norwich City in the first team? We have a power wheelchair football team. We have a cerebral palsy football team.
Okay.
So we want all our football teams to be successful. So I'd probably say, if in terms of our men's first team, which is 9 times out of 10 the main talking point, I'd probably say more of the same. Finish strong, and it probably sets up an exciting finish because next year there'll be again 1 or 2 more changes, and can we have a really good go to get where we want to be in the promised land of the Premier League. So I'll probably say, as we are, let's try and see if we can have a go at getting in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It is a slim task, but actually let's finish strong and let's finish together, and it sets up a good chance for next year. So it's exciting, but that's all part of being a Norwich City fan.
That's right.
It's never smooth,
but that's football.
That's football, and that's what excites us. I think, would I want it any other way? Probably not. Would I like to be just a mid-table Premier League team all the while? And I think you take some support and the awareness that comes with it, but look, this is what we offer as a football club, as a county. You look at our heritage as a football club, going from the nest as it was in the early 1900s to where we are at Carrow Road now. Our new ownership is exciting, so there's going to be changes to the stadium. We've got new young fans coming through. We've got new young players coming through. So I was saying, look, at the moment, having come through a bit of a difficult 3 or 4 months, I'd probably say it's exciting again. So let's do as best we possibly can to support them.
Great. Thank you. That's a really inclusive answer. Thank you for that, Ian. Look, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Ian, for being a part of this podcast today. Your messages came across really well, and I can just repeat my thanks again.
For me, I just want to say thank you to everyone at Norse, because that's the difference that you're making. It is huge. But you've asked me a number of difficult questions. I think it's only right they ask you the question you asked me at the start. How do you introduce yourself at a dinner party?
It's a difficult question.
Well,
I struggle. I mix my words, get jumbled up, and so on. But I just say that I work for an organisation that's in local government, and that's there to really help and support communities and residents to just improve their lives. And that's really how I introduce it. That's what I do. And then people go into what services, and I then go into that. There we go. Does that answer your question?
So as you said to me, good answer.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Ian, for being a part of this podcast today. Your messages came across really well, and I can just repeat my thanks again. Thank you very much.